Hello everyone, welcome back. Let me start with a question that might shock you. What if healthcare could move at the speed of modern life? Imagine not just families with sick children, but seniors, people with limited mobility, and vulnerable groups, all getting lab tests and the right medicine delivered straight to their door in just a few hours. No crowded clinics, no exhausting visites, no barriers. Could this be the future of healthcare, where equity and accessibility are built into the system itself? Today we're diving into a case study from China that's sparking global debate, and you'll see why this vision is impossible to ignore.
Imagine this. What if you could get a lab diagnosis and the right medicine delivered straight to your door in the middle of the night, all in less than 4 hours? Well, we're going to dive into a fascinating case study from China where this isn't some sci-fi dream, it's actually happening thanks to an incredible mix of technology and healthcare. Okay, so picture it. It's that scenario every parent absolutely dreads. It's late, your kid's temperature is climbing, and you feel that familiar pit in your stomach. What do? Do you wait it out and hope for the best? Or do you gear up for a long, miserable night in the emergency room? Well, for one parent, this exact moment kicked off a totally unexpected journey.
So our story kicks off at 8:30 p.m. A little girl's fever suddenly jumps to 38 degrees Celsius. That's about 100.4 Fahrenheit for those of us in the States. Her parent does exactly what most of us would do, right? They give her some fever-reducing medicine and just cross their fingers that it'll pass.
But then, a quick text to a friend completely changes the game. The advice they get back steers them away from a stressful, late-night hospital trip and points them toward a surprisingly high-tech solution. And this was the crucial piece of advice. The friend was like, look, with so many different bugs going around, you can't just guess. They insisted they order an at-home test right away to figure out exactly what was going on. The whole point was to get the right medicine started as soon as humanly possible. No guesswork, just data.
So, how in the world does a service like this even operate? Well, the parent took their friend's advice and placed the order. Let's break down step by step what happened next.
It all starts with a super simple online order. From there, a technician is dispatched to their house, a sample is collected right then and there, and they're given a QR code to track the results. I mean, it's designed to be completely frictionless.
And here is the first part that is just mind-blowing. Just 15 to 20 minutes after placing the order, there was a knock on the door. Not hours, minutes. Seriously, that's faster than most pizza deliveries.
But it wasn't just about speed. The technician who showed up was incredibly professional, but also really compassionate. They gave clear, gentle instructions for taking the mouth swab and even took a second to reassure the parent who was obviously worried. In a stressful moment like that, that little bit of human connection makes all the difference. After the sample was sealed up, the technician made a promise. A full report delivered digitally in under 3 hours. For the parent, who was already just stunned by how fast everything was moving, all they could do now was wait.
But here's the thing. The service didn't just meet that 3-hour promise, it completely shattered it. And the results that came back were definitely not what the parent was expecting.
And yep, true to their word, but even faster than they said, a notification popped up on the parent's phone just 2.5 hours later. The lab report was ready, right there, accessible with a single tap.
And this is why that test was so absolutely critical. The parent had assumed it was just the flu and had even bought some flu medicine already. But the test revealed a bacterial infection called pneumococcus, which often causes pneumonia. That distinction is everything, because antiviral flu medicine does absolutely nothing for a bacterial infection. They needed antibiotics, a completely different treatment.
And this is where the service's value just goes through the roof. It didn't just drop a complicated diagnosis in their lap and say, good luck. The report actually included specific guidance on which medications would be effective. It took all the guesswork out of what to do next.
So let's just step back for a second and look at the hard numbers. Because when you actually quantify this entire experience, the time, the cost, the effort, the level of convenience is it's off the charts.
From the moment the fever was detected to having the correct, targeted medicine delivered to their front door, the whole process took less than 4 hours. Think about that.
And get this, the cost. The at-home test itself was 69 yuan, and the medicine they needed was about 100 yuan. So the total expense for the entire thing came out to less than 200 yuan. That's roughly 27 US dollars. 27 bucks!
And maybe the most important number of all? 0.
That's how many trips they had to make to a crowded clinic or a chaotic, late-night ER. Zero travel, zero waiting rooms, zero hassle.
I mean, when you lay it out on a timeline like this, it's just incredible. From the first sign of a fever at 8:30 p.m. to having the right medicine in hand just after midnight, the entire problem was identified and solved in under 4 hours, all without ever leaving the house.
Now, this one family story is pretty remarkable on its own, but it also brings up a much bigger question. What does it mean for society when this level of care becomes not just possible, but widely available?
So here the author makes a really interesting comparison based on their own perceptions. They're thinking that in a country like the US, this kind of on-demand, at-home medical service would probably be a super expensive luxury, something reserved for the very wealthy. For most regular families, the only late-night choice is still a trip to the ER. The affordability and accessibility in this Chinese case study is just a world away from that.
And really, this was the author's big takeaway. They already knew China's logistics for things like e-commerce and food delivery were world-class. The real shock was seeing that same powerful, efficient infrastructure applied to public health, making advanced diagnostics cheap and easy for an average family to use.
Which, it leaves us with this huge question. When you fuse advanced logistics with healthcare, is this the future of routine medical care for everyone? A system that brings the lab and the pharmacy right to your doorstep whenever you need it. It's a pretty compelling vision of a world where healthcare finally moves at the speed of modern life.